Now we want to turn to our second text, which is in Matthew 18, in which Jesus takes the language of the Good Shepherd, applied in Luke 15, as we saw in our previous study, to Jesus himself. Now he's talking to the disciples, and he applies this language to them. Let's hear a part of the text. Take care that you do not despise one of these little ones. For I tell you, in heaven their angels continually see the face of my Father who is in heaven. And then after that introduction, we get the parable itself. What do you think? If a man has 100 sheep and one of them has gone astray, does he not leave the 99 on the hills and go in search of the one who went astray? And if he finds it, truly I tell you, he rejoices more over it than over the 99 that never went astray. And then the parable concludes, it is not the will of your Father who is in heaven that any one of these little ones should perish. We don't have time for all of its details, but we can look at part of them. First of all, the text starts off by saying, don't despise these little ones. It doesn't mean just children. It means the weak and powerless in the community of faith. It also means those who are new in the faith and thereby are like children. Paul calls the Corinthians, he uses the word children. And he also refers it to himself when he's talking about when he was a new Christian and didn't understand very much about the faith. There is always in any organization a tendency to despise the powerless and to turn and to show enormous deference to the people who have power. And there is always the tendency to try and acquire as much power as possible and then to gather around yourself as many other powerful people as you can in order to achieve the goals that you as a powerful group are trying to achieve. I remember very vividly an institute in Jerusalem where I taught for 10 years, and we had a new group of people who came to take our seminars every few months. And this one particular occasion, we just had a new group and we were seated around tables that had 8 people on them. And of course, we began to try and get acquainted when we had a new group every time. And so this one lady, I asked her, well, what do you do? And she said, I'm an information manager. We asked a few more questions and found out she was a librarian. So then I asked her, well, librarian is a good title. It's an honorable title. We've had it for a very long time. What's wrong with thinking of yourself as a librarian? With no apology. She said, librarian is not a power image. Information manager is a power image. Particularly those of us who live in the world's only superpower, it is very easy for us to be drawn to centers of power and begin more and more and more to despise those who don't have it. Well, they can take care of themselves. If they had any gumption, would get to work, they would be able to solve their problems, and it's not our problem. The only question is keep the doors open so that those powerless can make their way into the centers of power. And that becomes an answer. And this text says, no, do not despise these little ones. Why? Well, they got access to the boss. Their angels in heaven are constantly have the ear of our Father who is in heaven. And then he starts talking about the 100 sheep. You've got 100 sheep, one of them goes astray. And what are you going to do? You're going to leave the 99 and you're going to go after the one. That is, if the council of your church will let you. You see, here we got to talk about whether the church is a country club or whether it is, to use a new phrase, a missional church. Is the church organized best only for keeping those who are inside the church happy and well taken care of? Or is the purpose of the church to reach out beyond its borders to find people are hurting and do for them whatever we can, in whatever way that we can? What is the purpose of this organization? There are a great many churches organize themselves as a country club, and then they get a pastor or they get a priest, whatever their tradition happens to be, and he's being paid because he is the pro at the country club. He runs the shop. and he's the one that sees that the machines work, and he can help us a little on our swing, and he'll sell balls to us if we need them, and he'll organize the clubhouse to be sure that everything is in order, and that's why we pay him. We don't pay him to help people that are not members of the club. And so there is huge pressure on the leadership of the church to be sure that you spend your time with the 99, and that one that's lost out there, well, that's his problem and not ours, and he's not paying you and we are. There are zillions of churches out there that are unconsciously organized this way, and this parable very, very proudly speaks to that reality. And so what do we have here now? We have got this account in Matthew in which we're told that we're talking about Christian leadership, and we're talking about the powerless and the need to reach out to them. We're talking about the shepherd who is willing to leave the 99 and go after the one, and once he finds the one, then rejoices in that one that is found. And there is no scolding of the sheep because it's gotten lost. There's no wringing over the hands over all the energy that went to the one and the neglect of the 99. And we find out that the little ones can perish if they don't have the help that they need.